My name is Clarence P. Nicholas. I'm the president of the NAACP Milwaukee branch. Welcome to the John Lewis Day of Action 2021. And I hope all of you will write, email, or text your congressional representatives, your senators, and ask them to vote for the John Lewis Bill 2021 H.R. 4. That act, or that bill, coincides with the NAACP mission to prevent discrimination in voting and voter suppression. We also would like to add that equity in voting, in education, in housing, in employment, and health care is also one of the reasons why we would like to have them join us in the actions of the NAACP with preventing discrimination in those areas. 1, education. 2, employment. 3, housing. 4, health care. And 5, criminal justice. But note he also said, if one of those essentials is missing, that community, that society is not healthy.
Today, voting rights are under attack nationally by state legislators introducing and passing laws that put up barriers and make it unnecessarily difficult to cast a ballot. And here in Milwaukee County, we're no stranger to that, because over the last decade, we've seen attacks on early voting, on souls to the polls, on absentee voting, and on mail-in voting. Just last year, voters were made to choose between their health and having their voices heard during our spring elections, early in this pandemic. And instead of the usual 180 polling locations throughout the city, we were reduced to just 5 because we couldn't find enough poll workers. It was anti-democratic and morally illegitimate election that was brought on by an attempt to gain the system and suppress the votes of black and brown people in our community. And it backfired. And the people came out to vote to have their voices heard. And now in response to this historical turnout, not only in April but also this past November, we're seeing a systemic push to sow doubt in our election process and are introducing bills to curb people's vote. The current assault on voting rights across the country underscores the urgency of reform. Even though our democratic institutions survived an attempt to overturn the result of the 2020 election, individuals at the state level are riding the wave of lies and disinformation in order to advance voter suppression bills. And despite the pandemic, all 72 Wisconsin counties conducted free, accurate, and secure elections this past election. And conversely, almost immediately it was Milwaukee County's vote that was questioned, no doubt, due to the fact that nearly 70% of the state's black residents reside here. Make no mistake, this is an attempt to thwart the electoral process and disenfranchise voters, primarily in communities of color, based on lies about voter fraud. There are a dozen election reform bills currently being introduced in the state legislature, and some, if not many, that we have seen are the worst across the nation. And this is unacceptable, especially in a county that has a history of having the voting rights of black and brown residents attacked time after time. But the good news is that the fight continues in Washington, where a push for sweeping election reforms under the For the People Act has already passed the House, and President Biden has already said that he will sign it if it reaches his desk. I'm getting the hook, but what I want to say is that it is now up to us in the United States Senate to honor that commitment by passing the For the People Act in its entirety as soon as possible. And in the spirit of John Lewis, let's continue to get into some good trouble. God bless you all.
Good afternoon. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic, thank you, society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. you can lose it. Greetings, my name is Dr. Eva Hall. I am the president and CEO of the Milwaukee Urban League, one of the oldest civil rights and urban advocacy organizations, founded in Milwaukee in 1919 and founded in New York in 1910, 1 year following our other oldest civil organization, NAACP. The quote I opened with was from the late John Lewis. In the New York Times op-ed written shortly before his passing, Lewis talked about perseverance, his own hopes and dreams for society and the current generation. And he emphasized the importance of voter participation. He knew, just like our ancestors, that there is power in having the right to vote. The most nonviolent tool, Congressman Lewis said, that we can preserve a democracy. A very humbling statement for a man who experienced physical violence standing for the right to vote.
You know, it almost seems like when we come to occasions like this, we kind of preach it to the choir. The choir, I want you to know the song. It's called Suppression. That's right. And people are doing so many things to make sure that my community doesn't come out to vote. And my community is not even aware of how hard people are trying to make sure that they don't have a voice. So we have to make sure that people understand what's happening right now, not just all over the country, but right in Madison. What's happening right now is people who don't care if we have a voice. They play this scorched earth politics where they'll burn everything, they'll tear up everything, they'll destroy everything just to get their way. But we have to be in the front line to make sure that people understand the rights that are being taken away from them all. Right. So we have to be in the way, because we got to tell them about gerrymandering. We got to tell them about the complications with absentee ballots that they're trying to present. We got to tell them about this exact match requirement on ballots. We got to tell them about voter access. We got to tell them about drop box limits. We got to tell them about photo ID, strict photo ID laws. We got to tell them about purging our voters. We got to tell them about restoring voters back on the rolls. We got to tell them about ex-felons having the opportunity. We got to tell them about disability folks not having access. We got to tell them about voter rights acts not being passed. We got to tell them about limiting early voting. We got to tell them about no Sunday voting. We got to tell them about rolling all our polling places into a few. We got to tell them about that. We got to tell them about language barriers. We got to tell them about homeless folks not having opportunities. We got to tell them about polling place reductions. And we got to tell them about polling place relocations. We go to vote, we don't even know where to go. And they don't even know where to send us. They just treat us any old kind of way. And we got to stop letting people do stuff to us. We got to make things happen for us. Standing here. I'm a preacher that can't read. Standing here. I'm going to tell you right now, if we don't stand up for these people, nobody will. It's all right to celebrate John Lewis, but I tell you what we need to celebrate. We need to celebrate that we have rights, and we're going to make sure that they don't take them from us. If we stand around and do nothing, that's what we can expect. Nothing.
We've always supported the community, and what better way to support the John Lewis Voters Awareness Act, because John Lewis was also a Mason, a Prince Hall Mason. The Prince Hall family, as you can see behind me, Bill Prote, would you please step forward? Along with the Prince Hall Shriners, we are making every effort to get into the community this year and spread the awareness on voters' rights. It's very important that each and every one of us take the opportunity to vote. People have fought and given their lives so that we have the opportunity to do just such. So with that, on behalf of the Prince Hall family, I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and continue to vote. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Angelito Tenorio, and I'm here representing the API Coalition of Wisconsin. My story begins with my parents. I'm the proud son of immigrants. My mom and dad came to the United States. They came to Wisconsin from the Philippines in hopes of finding a better life, and they did. They fell in love with our communities, our schools, our opportunities here, and they decided to raise me and my siblings in West Allis. I truly discovered my passion for politics and government when I did my undergrad at Madison. Working in the Capitol, I saw firsthand how important it is that we have elected leaders who represent our values and who will fight for the issues we care about. I now work for an environmental organization called Wisconsin Conservation Voters, and the three issues that we really focus on are clean drinking water, clean energy, and a healthy democracy.
My name is Jada Webb, and I am the president of the Milwaukee NAACP Youth Council. Over the years, 5 decades to be more exact, John Lewis was subjected to an unimaginable amount of suffering due to physical injury and pushback as he and others sought to gain the unobstructed right to register and vote. Likewise, the Milwaukee NAACP Youth Council has been dedicated to participating in voting rights activism over several decades. We are here to assure everyone that we are in this fight for the long haul. We refuse to give in, give up, or give up our right to register and vote. And it is important for every young person of color to understand that our power is in our vote.
It is such an honor to be here today to just give praises and gratitude to what, Congressman John Lewis did, but also Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who knew that the only way for us to reach equality was to give folks like my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother the right to vote so they could elect people who look like me to the ballot. This last election cycle in the state legislature, it was the first time in history that we have ever had as many African American representatives elected to the state legislature. But not only did we stop there, we elected our first African representative, Representative Samba Balde. We elected our first Asian representative, Representative Jessica Hong. That just shows what your vote can do. Your vote can elect people who represents the representation of this state. Now, there are a whole slew of bills in Madison that are designed to eliminate your ability to vote. A trove of bills that aim to regulate absentee ballots, how they are delivered, restriction periods on in-person voting, prohibits election clerks from sending absentee ballots out in bulk. But you know what your vote did? Your vote elected a Democratic governor that is going to veto every last one of these bills when they come to his desk.
It's a privilege to be able to speak here, and I just want to say, what we were able to do in 2020 was really historic. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to push the envelope and make sure that voting and that voting rights are something that we can all do. Because what we've actually been able to see that's happened is after we had these historic wins in 2020, a lot of people, and mostly Republicans, have wanted to now take away that right to vote and make it that much harder to vote. And so what we were actually able to do in 2020 was partner with groups like LeBron James' More Than a Vote and Michelle Obama's When We All Vote and help register people. And we have to make sure that we know that it's not just when it comes to presidential elections or, Senate elections or gubernatorial elections. We have to make sure that people are able and registered and know about elections when it comes to city council, when it comes to county executive, DA, state senate. That's how we bring real change to this city, to this state, because that's where a lot of the biggest and most influential decisions are going to be made.
1, education. 2, employment. 3, housing. 4, healthcare. And 5, criminal justice. But note he also said, if one of those essentials is missing. That community, that society is not healthy.